expecting an ordinary night. I never imagined it would unravel everything I thought I knew about myself, about love, and about the boundaries we convince ourselves are unbreakable. That night, I thought I was just checking on my son, Ethan, whispering a good night. But one simple step into his room became a doorway into a world I wasn't ready for. A world that challenged everything I believed about who I was and what I deserved. The hallway was quiet, the kind of silence that blankets a house after midnight. The soft glow from the bathroom light stretched across the hardwood floors, highlighting the faint dust motes dancing in the still air. Every creak of the floorboard beneath my feet seemed louder than it should have been. It was supposed to be a simple routine, a mother's nightly ritual. Lean in, tuck the blanket under a sleeping child's chin, whisper a gentle sleep well, and retreat. That's all it was supposed to be. But the moment I pushed open the door, my lungs caught in my chest. It wasn't Ethan sitting on the bed. The figure there wasn't the boy I had raised. The one who had spent years begging me to chase away monsters. The one whose laughter filled these halls. No, it was Tyler, Ethan's best friend since middle school. For a heartbeat, I couldn't move. His silhouette was perfectly outlined against the dim bedside lamp. He turned his head slowly, our eyes meeting. And in that instant, I realized, this wasn't the awkward teenager who used to raid my fridge after soccer practice. This was someone different. Stronger. Steadier. Somehow more dangerous without even trying. There was a confidence in his stance, a subtle curve to his smile, a quiet magnetism that I wasn't prepared for. Ethan's asleep, he said softly, nodding toward the lump under the blanket. His voice was calm, deliberate, but there was an edge to it, a softness tinged with daring. Something about the sound made my skin prickle. I should have laughed it off. I should have smiled politely and excused myself. But instead, I froze, caught in a current that I didn't understand yet. A strange electricity that hummed between us. When did he change? His broad shoulders, sharp jawline, and the casual fall of his dark hair made him unrecognizable from the boy who once trailed behind Ethan with a bouncing backpack. He wasn't just grown, he had arrived. And suddenly, I was painfully aware of every inch of him, every line of his body. "I thought you were Ethan," I whispered, my voice barely audible, trembling in the quiet. Tyler's lips curved into a small, almost shy smile. "Sorry if I startled you," he murmured, warm, gentle, yet undeniably charged. There was something in the timbre of his voice that unsettled me, tugging at corners of feeling I had buried for years. I told myself to leave. My instincts screamed to turn, to step back, to close the door. But my feet betrayed me. They carried me into the room. I adjusted the blanket at the foot of Ethan's bed, pretending to fuss with it, though Ethan remained fast asleep. A flimsy excuse to linger. To exist in the space where Tyler's presence pressed softly against mine. As I bent to smooth the blanket over my son, I could feel Tyler's gaze. It wasn't invasive. It wasn't demanding. It was present. A silent acknowledgement that I was more than a mother, more than a caretaker, more than the routine figure who swept through life checking boxes and paying bills. "Long day?" I asked, breaking the silence, trying to fill the tension with small talk. He chuckled softly, the sound low, resonant, and intimate. "Yeah, but this," he paused, searching for words, "this is nice." I swallowed hard. Did he really mean it the way it sounded? My hands fidgeted with a spare pillow I grabbed from the closet, needing some anchor, some way to occupy myself while my pulse raced. "That's what moms do," I said lightly, forcing a laugh, a mask I wore like armor. "Make a place feel like home." Tyler's smile softened, almost sad. "Not everyone's that lucky," he murmured. His eyes held mine, and something inside me cracked open. A vulnerability I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. The silence stretched between us, almost unbearable, until I finally moved toward the door. That's when it happened. His hand brushed mine, tentative, respectful, almost accidental. And yet, the simplest contact made my heart pound as though it were breaking free from my chest. "Good night, Tyler," I whispered, pulling away, not in anger, not in rejection, but in a visceral awareness of how easy it would be to stay, to let this moment extend indefinitely. Even hours later, lying in my bed, I could still feel it. That fleeting touch, that magnetic gaze, that unspoken question hanging in the air between us. The next morning, the world spun as if nothing had changed. Ethan and Tyler stumbled into the kitchen, laughing, teasing, filling the house with the familiar noise of everyday life. But every time Tyler's eyes met mine, something deep inside me stirred, dangerous and alive. When Ethan announced he'd be gone late for a school project, the silence of the empty house felt sharp and almost unbearable. I curled up on the couch with a book, pretending to read. That's when I heard the soft knock at the door. Tyler stood there, rubbing the back of his neck, unsure. "Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you," he said softly. "It's fine," I murmured, setting the book aside. He sat at the far end of the couch, polite, careful, restrained. We spoke of school, of Ethan, but the conversation felt hollow, secondary to the tension simmering beneath it. Finally, he grew quiet, eyes fixed on mine. "Did I make you uncomfortable last night?" he asked. I couldn't lie. Denying it would have felt like betrayal to myself. I whispered, "No, you didn't." Relief washed over him, subtle, almost tangible, like a breath he had been holding all day. He leaned forward, hands clasped. "I've always thought you were incredible. Strong. Kind. Beautiful in a way that made me feel safe." The honesty, raw and unfiltered, broke something inside me. Without thinking, I reached for his hand. His fingers curled around mine, tentative, reverent, hesitant. "You shouldn't," I whispered, though I didn't pull away. "Maybe not," he admitted. "But I can't help how I feel." And the truth was undeniable. I couldn't help how I felt either. Every instinct, every part of me, long dormant, stirred at the connection. When he leaned closer, each movement was a question, a permission, not a demand. And when our lips met, it wasn't reckless or wild. It was gentle, tentative, and fragile. An unspoken plea to be seen, to be understood. I could have pulled away. I should have. But I didn't. In that fragile moment, years of invisibility, loneliness, and self-denial melted away. I wasn't just Ethan's mom. I wasn't just a divorced woman carrying responsibilities like armor. I was a woman alive again. The days that followed blurred between ordinary routines and secret glances, fleeting touches, and unspoken words. Ethan remained blissfully unaware, his laughter filling the house like sunlight through the windows. Every stolen moment with Tyler deepened the pull, the undeniable tension that neither of us could fully name. Boundaries, risk, the potential for betrayal, it all loomed in the back of my mind. But every time Tyler looked at me, really looked at me, I felt something I hadn't in years. Desired, acknowledged, alive. One evening, after Ethan had gone to a group project, Tyler returned. We sat close on the couch, knees brushing. "This could ruin everything," I whispered. "I know," he said softly. "But it could also mean everything." His hand found mine, warm, steady. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, I deserved more than survival. I deserved life in its raw, thrilling intensity. What happened after that? It's complicated. It's messy. And yes, some might say it was wrong. But it was real. It awakened a part of me that had lain dormant, suffocated by years of routine, obligation, and loneliness. And it left me with one question I still can't answer. When life hands you a moment that makes you feel alive again, do you walk away? Or do you take the risk, even if it changes everything? The days after that night became a strange blur, a delicate balance between normal life and something forbidden simmering just beneath the surface. Every time Tyler walked into the house, my chest tightened in a way I couldn't explain. Ethan remained blissfully oblivious, his laughter echoing like sunlight bouncing off walls. And yet, in every shadow, every glance, every casual brush of hands, I felt it, the pull that neither of us could deny. I started noticing small things. The way Tyler paused in the doorway, his hand hesitating on the doorknob as though deciding whether to stay or leave. The faint hum of his presence lingering after he had gone. Even the scent of his cologne, subtle but distinct, clung to the air long after he was gone. I caught myself walking through the house thinking about him, remembering the curve of his smile, the way his eyes held unspoken questions, the way my heart reacted before my mind even had time to process it. We began finding small excuses to be in the same space. A book left on the couch became an excuse to sit close. A sudden need for help with a computer problem became a reason for prolonged conversation. Each interaction was loaded with tension, silent questions hovering in the air like particles of dust in sunlight. One afternoon, Ethan had gone out to a soccer practice, and the house was quieter than usual. Tyler and I ended up in the kitchen, each of us pretending to focus on mundane tasks while secretly aware of the undercurrent running between us. He leaned against the counter, his presence so near I could feel the heat radiating from him without even touching him. The space between us seemed charged, every glance amplified, every word a subtle test of boundaries. "I never realized," he said softly, breaking a silence that had stretched too long, "how different this feels, being here with you." I swallowed, my throat dry. "Different how?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. He looked away for a moment, collecting himself. Like I'm not just a guest in someone else's life. Like I matter. Like this is real. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't just him feeling it. I had felt it from the very first night. That dangerous, alive, undeniable pull. An invisible thread pulling me toward him, against reason, against caution. But with that awareness came a storm of conflicting emotions. Guilt whispered relentlessly in my ear. What if Ethan knew? What if I was making a mistake I couldn't undo? Fear pressed against my chest with every heartbeat. Desire, longing, and curiosity, powerful and unyielding, warred with years of self-restraint and careful boundaries I had built for myself. I caught myself thinking about him at odd times. While washing dishes, while folding laundry, even during work calls. Every memory of his touch, his gaze, lingered longer than it should have. I tried to convince myself it was just attraction, fleeting and meaningless. But deep down I knew it wasn't. Something fundamental had shifted inside me. Something that couldn't be ignored. It happened on a quiet evening. Ethan had gone to a friend's house for a study session, and Tyler stayed behind, ostensibly to help with some homework. We sat side by side on the couch, knees brushing, the soft glow of the lamp creating a cocoon around us. "I can't stop thinking about last night," he admitted quietly. His voice was barely audible, but it resonated in the stillness of the room like a hammer striking glass. I froze, my heart thudding in my chest. "Neither can I," I whispered, though the words felt dangerous even as they escaped my lips. His hand found mine tentative, like an unspoken question, and I let it stay there. The warmth of his skin against mine was a jolt, a reminder that this wasn't a dream, that the pull between us was real, tangible, undeniable. "I shouldn't," I murmured, knowing the truth of it. "It's wrong." "Maybe," he said softly, eyes searching mine. "But some things aren't about right or wrong. They're about being honest with yourself. About feeling alive again." And in his gaze I saw everything I had been missing. Acknowledgement, desire, understanding, permission. Days passed like this, a careful dance of proximity and restraint. We were always conscious of Ethan, of appearances, of the invisible line we couldn't cross. And yet, every moment together pushed the boundaries further, slowly eroding the defenses I had built around myself. Even the simplest interactions became charged. A shared laugh over a spilled drink. A brush of hands as we passed by each other in the hallway. The brush of fingers while reaching for the same book. Each touch, each glance, an experiment in restraint. A test of willpower neither of us had entirely mastered. The tension was addictive, a current running beneath the surface of ordinary life, pulling me into a world I both feared and craved. One night, after Ethan had gone to bed early, the quiet of the house felt almost unbearable. Tyler lingered in the doorway of my room, casual, hesitant, uncertain. "I don't want to overstep," he said, voice low, carrying a weight I could feel in my chest. "You haven't," I whispered, even as my heart raced in response to his proximity. We stood there, neither of us moving, the air thick with anticipation. Each second stretched, each heartbeat amplified, until the silence became almost unbearable. And then, without a word, he leaned closer, a slow, deliberate motion, his eyes asking the question he hadn't dared to voice. "Do you feel it too?" I didn't have to answer. My body, my pulse, my breath. All of it spoke louder than words ever could. Subscribe for more.